I need you guys to understand. I need you to understand how painful this is. I need you to understand how painful it is to be reminded every day that your race means nothing. And that isn't the case anymore. That is never the case anymore. We are going to try today. We are a physical representation of our support for George Floyd.
Bang on them! Bang on them! Bang on them!
We are a physical representation on our support for Sandra Bland.
Bang on them!
We are a physical representation on our support for Trayvon Martin. We are a physical representation of our support for Stephen Lawrence. For Mark Duggan. Black men, we need to take care of our black women. We need to take care of them. They are ours. They are our hearts. They are our future. We cannot demonize our own.
Amen.
We are the pillars of the family. Yes. Imagine this, a nation that is set up with individual families that are thriving, that are healthy, that communicate, that raise their children in love, have a better rate of becoming better human beings. Black lives have always mattered. We have always been important. We have always meant something. We have always succeeded, regardless. And now is the time. I ain't waiting. I ain't waiting.
Well, hey, everybody. This is a very vital and important episode of Everybody Gets One. We are nerds, we are cosplayers, we're photographers, we're artists, we're many things, but we are Black first and foremost. And it would just be remiss among many other things to not talk about this, not talk about everything that's going on, and talk about how police brutality and racism, and particularly anti-Blackness, keep rearing its ugly head. And how do we keep that from happening so that we can just be our nerdy selves without being, without having our rights infringed upon? So with that being said, I'll toss it over to our moderator for this episode, Alex, Mr. Problematic himself.
Hey, everybody. I didn't know how else to say anything else, but hello.
We need joy in this moment.
I know, but I'm kind of sad. It's a very sad moment.
Yes, I know. And then of course we have Rio. Hey, Rio, our comic book.
Greetings. I am thankfully here with people that I care about to try and enlighten some of our listeners and our listeners who share our podcast with their friends, and hopefully this can just spread as much as some peace in this world.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is very sad. Oh my God, this is a very sad topic. Okay, so I don't know if anybody, well, the whole world should know at this time now, but sadly we had to lose another Black person. George Floyd sadly was murdered by Derek, I don't even care how to pronounce your last name, Chauvin, I guess is how you pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
Chauvin, whatever his name is. Thankfully, he's off the streets and he has been arrested alongside his colleagues for the murder of Mr. George Floyd. Sadly, this is like a situation that happens too often and that we're kind of numb to. Sadly, I am numb to it, but that's what makes it bad, And I just want to get everyone's thoughts and feelings on it. So, Rio, how do you feel right now?
Like you said, it's gotten to the point where it's become numb because it's in the media, and then it's in the media for a couple of days to a week, and then it gets brushed over by whatever the next hot topic is, and then 2 months later it happens again. It's in the media, it's on the news, it's the hot topic for 1, 2, 3 days, a week passes, it's brushed under the rug.
Right.
Thankfully, in some aspect, this one has been going strong, and it seems as though it's continuing to go strong, and you can't turn a blind eye to it, because I'm assuming in part the evidence is right in your face, plain as day, well, maybe not total HD, but it's there and it's obvious what's happening. For those who have seen the video. There's no denying it, there's no disputing it. It's what it is. As if you were standing right there on the street seeing it. And for some people, they're seeing it for the first time. They're seeing it play out the way it does for so many people, and how it has for so many people, African Americans in America, for how many, God knows how many years. I mean, how far do you need to go back? Like, really?
About 400 years.
Yeah, sadly, slavery, you have to go that far back.
Yeah.
You know, and this one, it's just not justified. It's in any way. I mean, you know, and you guys know how it is. They try and well, you know, this happened, so let's dig into this person's past and, you know, check out their criminal record, and they weren't an angel, you know, they weren't this, they weren't that. You could do that with anybody. I mean, come on, get real. Not only that, where does going and digging up somebody's past of mistakes that they may have made, what relevance does that have to the final product, which is that person's death? So you're digging into their past to try and discredit what is happening to them.
Right. And not even that, but it's like you dig in like 10 years, like what does that have to do with this moment? The fact that they did this thing 10 years ago, you know, and before we even continue the conversation, I just want to lift up, you know, because like you said, Rio, part of the trend that was been happening over the past however many years is it would happen and then it's news and then it blows over and then it's like the cycle will continue, where now where it's happening so often and it's kind of like being recorded so often and it's so heinous and so like cut and dry and in your face, like it's pretty much a slap in the face, right? And not only do we have George Floyd, you have Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky, who is an EMT, and today is her 27th birthday. Today is her 27th birthday, and she was shot and killed by police in a no-knock raid or whatever, and they killed her in her sleep. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, and then of course you had Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed by you know, former cops when he was jogging in his neighborhood, and they apparently have been messing around with him for years because they ain't like him in this in their neighborhood.
And that took over 3 months for them to actually put them in jail.
Right,
3 months. They chased the man down. They shot him.
Right.
And did not go to jail for 3 months.
Yeah, and he was killed in February. You had Breonna in March. At the end of March, they were like almost a month apart. And then of course you have George Floyd in what was it, April? So, you know, it's just like one after the other. And then, you know, of course, all the while, this stuff is happening all over the world. Like there's police brutality. People are getting killed. People are disappearing, especially activists are disappearing in Brazil, all around the world. You know, black and brown people and especially black people are disappearing and turning up dead. So now it's like, you know, we're pretty much fed up on a global level, you know, so that's why you're seeing all these protests and everything. And, you know, it's surreal. It's surreal.
I heard something earlier today, because I've been watching these videos all morning, essentially, and just having things play in the background.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say, and this is in jest or whatever, but somebody say that Breonna was, how many times was she shot? 6 times? Is that
Jesus Christ?
Or something, yeah.
Yes.
between 6 and 8.
Yeah, so the excuse was that she was caught in a crossfire. So are you? I don't know the details of that. I can't like. So what? Were the cops having a shootout in an apartment building, or what?
Well, they basically went into their home, and it's a no-knock warrant. So basically means that they just kick the door in. You know, there's no knocking like police.
No announcement of police or anything like that.
So you think somebody's coming in and invading your home, you know what I'm saying? You have no idea that this is the police. So her husband or whoever she lived with grabbed the gun.
Yeah, it was her boyfriend.
Intruding on them. You know what I mean?
Yep,
so
he did. What he did was common sense. Like, if I have a weapon and in the middle of the night someone opens my door, I'm shooting at you. There's no question about it.
Right.
And you got flashlights flashing everywhere. I don't know who that is. I can't see past a high beam of light. It's not possible. It's like a deer in headlights.
Right. And you got the wrong fucking address.
Exactly. Apparently the target house was 10 miles away. So
So it's not like you're going to be in the back of your mind like, oh shit, I got warrants. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't have any warrants. So, you know, like you screwed up. Like, that's just first, the fact that you even have no knock warrants is just, you know, it's racial, so many racial undertones in that in of itself, you know, and then the fact that y'all 10 miles off, like, come on now.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing.
On your research before you just went in the wrong house, like, for real. That's terrible investigative work. That's so shoddy.
Right.
Yeah.
At best.
So another one, I want to get some of this stuff just out here in the open so that way it can just extend the conversation. So another one, actually, this is thanks to you, Alex. I was watching more Legal Eagle. Shout out to Legal Eagle.
Mm.
Yeah, shout out to Legal Eagle, man. He's a YouTuber here in DC, and he's doing his thing, speaking up against this. So shout out to Legal Eagle.
So I was watching his video, and he was shining a little bit of light that otherwise, if you hadn't, he understands the legal system, which the vast majority of people do not, of course, which, I mean, is understandably so. But the Ahmaud Arbery, I think I said that right. He said that one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that they try to use the defense that the two guys who shot and murdered him, were doing a citizen's arrest. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, they allegedly doing a citizen's arrest.
Right. And what he was saying was a lot of people misinterpret that because a citizen's arrest does not make you a police officer.
Right.
So they approached him. They blocked him with two vehicles with firearms in hand. And they call that a citizen's arrest. That's not exactly how it works. You're not only that, a citizen's arrest, you're not showing up with lethal force. And he was just trying to stress that issue right there. Another thing is they were saying that they were following him because he had supposedly maybe stolen something, which when on his person, he had nothing. He had no weapons.
He fit the description of a burglar who was in the neighborhood.
Right. And then when they did the check on that, there had been no reported burglaries in that neighborhood for over a month.
But not only that, but he runs like the same route. Like, that's his routine.
Yes.
So, like, everybody in the neighborhood knows that this dude jogs this route, you know, every day.
Also, I don't know if this is, I can fact check me on this, but apparently he also was in a trade school or a class for being an electrician or something like that. Apparently, I'm not sure. But so of course you would be curious of a vacant, open home under construction.
Right.
And for them to act like, oh, it's strange for someone to go into an open construction site. You're sadly mistaken.
Right.
I have admittedly done that
Right.
several times. Like it's curiosity. You want to see how a home is built. You want to see all the like inner workings of things. I'm a nerd, so I like to see the geek, like the geeky part of a home. I want to know how things work and how it's built. So to act like his curiosity was him trying to steal something is totally insane.
Well, that's how. What were we gonna say, Rio?
Oh, I was gonna say it's very presumptuous, and I mean we already know where the presumption of him going in there and them assuming that he's stealing something comes from. I mean that doesn't even need to be spoken out loud. But I don't know. And the other thing is there was also footage of other people doing the exact same thing, going into the home, or not even the home, the structure, and checking it out, just taking a look, curiosity. And on the news, when interviewed, the site manager or, whoever the person was who's managing that structure, the property, the building of the home or whatever, also stated on television that nothing was removed from the premises.
Yeah. I mean, but that's essentially how dehumanization and demonization works, right? Is like you're taking away the humanity from someone so that all those various possibilities that y'all just outlined, which make a lot of sense, for a normal person, no longer apply to us because we're not seen as human. You know what I mean? So it's like inherently we have to be up to no good, and that's kind of like, that's ultimately what's at the source of it. It's like best case scenario, we're typecast or stereotyped as just being lethargic and not wanting to do jack shit and being lazy. And then worst case scenario, it's like we'll steal from you, we'll rob you, we'll kill you, we'll rape you. And it's like, that's all shit that's happening to us on a regular basis and like on a systemic. And I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It's just
it's like a sad, funny irony. It's like,
because it's like, I've been watching this happen. Like I've seen it happen. It's happened to this stuff has happened to members of my family, like I've witnessed systemic racism in so many forms throughout my life, and by proxy of family members and friends throughout my entire life. And then doing the work, you see it in another light, and you're becoming aware of information, and you're in think tanks with other people who have a whole other story of their own and a whole other expertise of their own. So it's like, after a while, you kind of, like you said, you become numb to it. I feel like I'm so desensitized, and it bothers me. Like it really bothers me. But at the same time, with all this happening, I'm still like, I'm very angry, and I have a lot of mixed emotions, which, while I don't like feeling these emotions, I kind of feel good, because at least it's like, all right, at least I'm not like totally dead inside. Like I do have a human reaction to these things still.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you guys feel about them showing so many of quote unquote us looting and all that jazz? Like what is your opinions on the whole looting situation?
Let me start that one. Okay, so I don't care. And part of the reason I don't care is because social media. Okay, so they can show that on CNN, they can show that on Fox News, they can show that on MSNBC, they can show that on all of those damn stations, right? But let me see. I mean, even social media has a level of control, but people have cell phones with high definition cameras on them now, and they are filming what is actually going on the front line. So technically, every single person who's out there is a camera crew.
Yeah.
Like they're a camera crew member. You know what I'm saying? So you see some injustice going on. You pull out your phone, you record it, you upload it to whatever social media outlet. I'm not plugging any of them because they're just as corrupt as anybody. But the truth is going to make its way through one way or another. It's like water. It's going to find a way to get through the cracks. You just have to be able to locate it, and people have to share it. And people who care are going to share it. And they're going to keep blocking it, and they're going to keep banning people, and they're going to keep putting you in jail, social media jail, and they're going to do all that because that kind of information, a lot of times they either don't want it out there because they don't want the truth to be out there, or they don't want a revolution, or they don't want people to be like getting so much of the reality of what's going on outside,
right?
You know, of the safety of your home, that people start to become like-minded and actually can like uprise and make a difference and do something. They're always trying to filter that.
It's funny you say that because there was a recent poll that came out, or a recent survey that came out, that said 74% of Americans feel like we have a race/police brutality problem. You know, like 74% of people are like, yo, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like that is unheard of. I would have never thought I would see, like as a sociology student, I would never have thought I would see numbers like that. Like seriously. And I'm not sure, I have to go double back and figure out the source of it, because that's a whole other thing too. I don't think that there's been enough time for any like thing academically accredited to be put out yet. But that's like crazy to me. And then to your point, about like being like water, that's been the overwhelming theme among the movement, is #BeWater, so that you're able to like be fluid and you're able to adapt and slip through the cracks, as you said. And also when it does come to journalism, particularly in times like this, journalisms get most of their stories from people on the ground. You know, they don't have time to, I mean, you do have some of them who are on the ground, but you see they're being attacked. Like the police are attacking reporters.
Yeah, I saw this Australian cameraman, he got punched in the gut by a cop.
Yep.
Like what y'all doing?
And that was so 45 could walk across the street to take a picture with the Bible upside down.
Yeah, we'll get to that topic in a second. We'll get to that one in a second. I want to hold on. Let's pull it back real quick.
Man, I forgot what city that was in, and they just shoved him to the ground, and he was.
Yeah, the old guy. Yeah, and he was bleeding from his head. Yeah.
I mean, and I don't want to like center, you know, the one thing I don't want to do is like center white people's experiences and all this, as much as I do appreciate, and that's a whole other conversation in itself, because we got some problematic white allies that we, you know, that need to be addressed, or problematic non-black allies that need to be addressed.
Don't worry. We're getting on to that too. That's all going to be in this show. We're doing this whole show about this whole situation. I want to know all your opinions on this. But Cece, how do you feel about, Rio says he don't give a damn about the loot. How do you feel about the loot?
I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of share the same sentiment, you know, basically like on its face, obviously it's not something I would normally condone under normal circumstances, you know, but this has been a long time coming. Like I cannot stress that enough. This has been a long time coming, and it's not, you know, people did not go to the streets to loot. They went to the streets because they're pissed off that their people are dying, you know, and no other reason whatsoever. People have every right to want to fuck shit up. I want to fuck shit up. I just got more shit. I just know that I have other outlets and other platforms and ways in which I can contribute to the movement, even though I can't be in the streets because, you know, I live with people who are susceptible to coronavirus. But I know that I'm in a position of privilege where I can help and lend my voice in other ways. But those people, most of those people don't have that voice, you know, and then even when they do use their voice, it's like it goes unheard. So at some point, you know, like somebody put it so well when I was on the Head Nerds in Charge podcast. She said that, you know, the Constitution is a business contract, and ain't no love in business, you know what I mean? And when somebody breaches your contract and screws you over in business, what you gonna do? You gonna be
fuck them up.
oh please, you know, could you please just no, you're gonna fucking go to court and clean them the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like this ain't how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my initial opinion on the whole situation was, it was like, I don't really like looting, but I understand why that energy exists. Because what's something my parents always told us? If you can't hear, you're going to have to feel. My mother told me that 95 million times. And, you know, so that's the way I learned from my mother. If you can't hear, you're going to have to feel. So I understand the energy of it, right? So at first I was like, oh, I understand it, but I don't really like it. But at the same time now, I'm like, all right. I was listening to a podcast earlier today where they said after King's assassination, right?
Yep.
6 days of looting.
Yep.
And the president who took over for Kennedy, forgive me, I don't remember his name. Was it Lyndon B. Johnson?
Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah, Lyndon B. Johnson.
Can of worms too, but I'll let you finish.
He was a shithead, but he signed a bill like 6 days after looting for some economic situation with minorities or whatever, right?
There was so much reform passed.
Yeah, right after his assassination, because we were burning everything down. And that's with you know, non-discriminate burning. Well, you know, it is what it is. So once I heard that, I was like, all right, well, now I kind of don't give a shit. But also, I want to make one thing clear though.
Mm-hmm.
When all these protests started, all right, yeah, we know there's going to be some people. We know this. When there's a murder like this, or when a popular figure is killed, right? There's going to be a riot. There's going to be looting. Like, it's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Here's my message for people. Do not try to put Black Lives Matter and the people who are out there peacefully protesting in the same bubble as like Joe Smo down the block looting, or people who you know are literally taking advantage of the situation. Don't put us all in the same bubble, number one. Number two, there's a lot of this is where I wanted to float into the situation of other people standing with us, you know, other races standing with us and joining in, especially for them. Do not, because I saw this online, do not run around spraying Black Lives Matter on buildings. Number one, you ain't Black. Number two, when they see that, like the lady said in her video, they're going to say that we did it.
Right.
When you say Black Lives Matter, they're assuming that it's coming from us. We don't need y'all to go out there and blow stuff up and smash stuff and say Black Lives Matter. Don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. If you are an ally of a different race or whatever, here's what you can do. Open up your wallet.
Right.
And open up your mouth to your friends and your family who you know is a closet racist. You know, grandpa be slipping out that N-word, be saying nigga, 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 like I be doing here on this podcast. You know he be slipping that shit out. So talk to grandpa, open up your wallet and help fund some of these communities and help fund some of these movements that are trying to help change things. Right. Don't do that bullshit. All right. Continue on.
It's tone deaf, and it's like you making it. It's like you kind of like just making it about you and just doing it
exactly.
Whereas I've seen allies who have used themselves as human shields for Black protesters because they know that they're going to come at the Black protesters. They're not going to shoot the white protesters in the same way, in the same numbers that they are the Black protesters. So it's like, you know, if you don't, and someone said, it was like somebody else said it, if you don't know what to do right now, like it's okay to just listen. Like it's okay to just do your research. Like don't go out there and just going balls to the wall and then you make a bad situation.
Our anger is focused. like a laser beam. Y'all anger is just like, oh, you're angry, well, I'm angry too, and then you're just doing dumb shit.
Right.
Like, and don't try to explain away, well, I'm fighting for you. I don't need the way you fight for us is to fight your own. All right. Talk to them, go to court with them, do whatever you got to do with them. Don't come into this. See, now I'm starting to see why Malcolm X was like, yeah, we'll take your help, but you can't join. Like, I'm starting to get that right now by seeing them running around doing all this bull crap and saying this on behalf of me. You're not speaking on, don't do that. I just want to make that very clear. Do not do that.
Well, for one, it's like Black Lives Matter is not a trend. Like, it's not a fad. Like, this is an actual organization that is like, has a tax ID, has, you know, people on staff, you know, they have tenants, they have a website. You can go to the website and read their tenants. You can learn about their founders. You can learn about their code of conduct. All these various different things. Like, we are not just, you know, a bunch of little kids running around, looting and shit. Like, we are like Black Lives Matter is an organized movement. It is an organized movement, and we know what the fuck we're doing. So it's like, either sit back and take notes, you know, classes in session. Welcome to the, like, I've been in school for God knows how long, and it's like now people want to jump in and get a crash course. You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing wrong with that, but you still got to do your homework. You can't just jump in, especially as a non-Black person, and just jump in and trying to, like, your job is to amplify our voices. You cannot be the voice, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's very true. So in adding on to your statement of being ally, I saw a video the other day, and it was a Latin American guy. I can't remember specifics, but you know, he looked Latin American. You know how some Latin Americans, they can go from like blonde-haired, blue eyes to all the way to, you know, dark.
As black as me.
Yes.
Would you say he was more or less mestizo, like a mix between white and Native American? Like a mix between white and American Indian?
Possibly. Yeah. So I'm kind of like the little curlier hair, you know, thicker, curlier hair. But so he just did a short video, and basically in his video, what he was stating was that he was at work. I think he worked construction or was a truck driver or something like that. And the guy who he was working with made a statement about Black people. And it was like a disrespectful statement. And the guy said, whoa, like, what do you don't say that kind of stuff around me. And he was like, why do you care? He was like, you're not Black. And he was like, he said, you're not Black, you're Latin American or Puerto Rican, whatever. He said, no, I'm Black. He said, when you see me, I'm Black. He was like, that's what I am. And he was like, and any immigrant who comes to this country and shows disrespect to the Black people in this country shouldn't be in this country, because you wouldn't be able to be in this country if it wasn't for Black people fighting for those rights. He said, if you were an Asian American in the 60s, there was a Black water fountain and there was a white water fountain.
Well, it was white and it was colored.
Yeah, you're correct. Right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So he said, if you're Asian and you try and go and drink at the white water fountain, somebody's going to say something to you. But if you go and drink at the colored water fountain, they'll look at you and be like, okay, well, you know, this is where you drink.
Right.
You know, with schools, with, you know, community, the African Americans were always accepting.
Right.
Whereas elsewhere, that wasn't quite the case. You're going to get the side eye, or you're going to get asked to leave, or forcefully, you're going to be forced to leave those areas. So anyway, what he was trying to get at was that for everybody who's here now and enjoying the fruits of being in America, who's a minority, how could you ever disrespect the African Americans who fought to get you to the place that you're at now? Because like I said, if you're Latin American, you can go from blonde hair to blue eyes all the way to the darkest complexion.
Right. Latino is not a race. Latino.
Yes.
And I'll get into that in a minute, but go ahead.
So, and you know, and some of them can get away with more things than other ones, if you understand what I mean by that. But regardless, your ancestors, your family wouldn't have been able to come here and live the comfortable life that they lived and are living today if it wasn't for Black people in the past fighting for everyone to have those rights who wasn't of a certain descent.
Right. And I mean, even in all of that, it's like we shouldn't have to have done all that for our lives to have some value. You know what I mean? And so there's that. And then there's also the fact that, like you said, Latinx is not a race. It is merely a word that is used to describe someone who has origins in Latin America, ethnic origins. Ethnicity and race are not the same thing, right? You know, because you could be Asian American and you can also be Japanese, two different things. So, you know, people get the two misconstrued a lot. And that's why when people think of what a Latinx person looks like, they usually think of someone who's like my complexion, you know, straight, wavier hair, you know, like a Sofia Vergara, J-Lo or whatever. But like you said, Alex, like Latinx people can go from criollo, which is basically Spanish for white, or, you know, blanco criollo, which, you know, like this Creole, like the Creoles who came from Spain. And you go to mestizo, so that's like Sofia Vergara, Jennifer Lopez, mulattoes, which of course for us is a derogatory term. And then you have your morenos, or Black people. And there are countries in Latin America that have a higher percentage of Black people than the United States. Colombia has like 30%. You know, Brazil has over 30%, the largest outside of any, outside of Africa. So, you know, people just have such a short-sighted and narrow view of what the African diaspora looks like. So that's a whole other thing in of itself. And of course, there's colorism in Asia, which has its roots in elitism, but was exacerbated by white supremacy. And there are actual like peoples, there are African peoples in India who are being oppressed right now, who've been in India for like hundreds of years. Like they came as explorers and they never left. So and then you have the Aboriginals in Australia. I could go on, you know. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, like you said, in regards to how non-Black people of color have benefited from, you know, from Black institutions and Black labor, HBCUs were a hub for non-Black people of color, including Jewish people. Howard has a very...
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, Howard University. How do you think Howard University's law school got the fund, you know, as big as it did? Because Jewish people were going to Howard Law School, because all the predominantly white institutions had quotas. And a quota, like you could be at a school and a quota for the freshman class, like when Dorothy Height, who's a great civil rights leader, highly recommend you look her up. Dorothy Height, when she went to go to college in New York, this is in New York. I mean, granted, it was like early 1900s or something, but when she went to go to school in New York, they turned her away, even though they gave her an acceptance letter, because they told her that the quota for Black people had been met, and the quota was 2 at the time. So, you know, HBCUs and other Black institutions have been a beacon in communities, not just for Black people, but for anybody who cannot pass for Anglo-Saxon Protestant white. Period.
That's the sad thing about this. Like, Black people are the most inviting and forgiving people it looks like in the world. And I'm sorry to say, but that bullshit got stopped, man. Fuck it. Fuck everybody. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of this shit. That's some bullshit. Like, the quota is 2. All right. And then we let everybody else come in. It's a mess.
Yeah, it's funny because later in her life, the school actually gave her an honorary doctorate, I think, or honorary degree. So she wound up getting her just due purse. But, you know, it's like it's a whole system. And HBCUs, ever since schools have been integrated, and that's why Dr. King said, I fear I've led my people into a burning house. Because as soon as they started integrating, you know, all these institutions, they started defunding the historically Black institutions, schools, you know, Black businesses closed, like a lot of Black businesses.
Yeah, like Black Wall Street. I have an idea for that, but we'll talk about that off camera.
Well, Black Wall Street was before that. Black Wall Street was...
Well, I have something in my brain. We'll talk, Cece. We'll talk after that.
No, you good, but Black Wall Street was like post-Victorian into the Harlem Renaissance era. Okay. Yes, versus mid-century. Yeah.
Another thing that we have an issue with, you know, on top of us getting murdered, it looks like every single month, we got a lot of white people who try to act like they don't understand what's going on and then try to turn around and apologize. A Miss Amy Cooper, if you guys have heard of, I assume she's what the cool kids are calling a Karen now. She thought it was a bright idea to play the race game with a Mr. Christian Cooper, no relation.
I know.
And I know that was so ironic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And because he simply asked for her to put her dog on a leash, she thought it was a bright idea to call the cops and act like she's about to get raped or murdered by this man. Stop it, number one. Number two, don't apologize for it. Your apology falls on deaf ears when it comes to me, but I'm pretty sure it falls on deaf ears to most Black people in general, because you specifically said on the phone, why'd you mention his race? If it wasn't about race, why'd you mention it? You specifically said there is a African-American man who is threatening me and my dog. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Please come now.
And my dog. And my poor dog.
Don't apologize. Just shut the fuck up forever. I'm sorry. I had to get that out of there too.
No, you could. But you want to know what's crazy though is like, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's get to the systemic part of this case study, right? Like, this woman was a vice president at her firm. She had control over people's jobs, over people's futures, you know what I'm saying, over whether or not they got promoted or whether they got the job at all. You know what I mean? And here's another wonderful element that I love talking about, and it's called white liberalism, because she identifies as politically liberal.
She's a liberal?
Yes.
Oh my God, get the fuck out of here.
Because, and that's something that I feel like is so important, because a lot of people will feel like if they vote blue, that it somehow absolves themselves of anti-Blackness, and that is not the case. It's simply not. Like, it doesn't absolve you. Even if you're Black, it don't. Look at Clarence Thomas. You know, look at Candace Owens just said some disrespectful mess.
That's that chick who, she's a Republican and she says a lot of dumbass shit out of her mouth. Okay, yeah. I forgot to write it down, but I want to talk about that too. Yeah, she said some.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even then, there are a lot of liberals who I feel like have catching up to do when it comes to LGBTQ rights, when it comes to respectability politics, you know, and that's what kind of got us to this point, was like, every other time somebody got turned into a hashtag, we always accepted these bullshit reasons why they deserve to die. I don't care if he had a fucking Skittles and iced tea. I don't care if he was wearing a hoodie. I don't care if he was selling loose cigarettes. I don't care about none of that shit.
And they love bringing up, oh yeah,
And
he
we
smokes
just
weed.
and we're like, oh,
You
well,
smoke weed.
Right. And then we just accept it like, oh, well, I guess he was running away. You know, like we've just accepted that shit. And now it's in your face to the point where I don't care, you know, how much you try to ignore it. Like you can't ignore it anymore.
Nope. And you know, I don't know if you guys follow, I think you might have posted this, Alex. Jamie Foxx posted a video right after this really like started to pick up. And you know, Jamie Foxx has actually been especially with about Marberry's deal, he's been quite vocal and been out there in the public. But he posted a video that was, no, it wasn't you, Alex, somebody else sent it to me. It was crazy. It was I guess it was the guy's mom was filming a young guy fighting two police officers in front of the house.
Yes.
One of them was female, the other one was male. And I think he took the nightstick from the female officer and was hitting her with it while the other one was trying to pull her off. And then he got in the cop car and drove off. I swear, I can't even make this up.
I saw that.
It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I was like, how?
Why were their guns not pulled out? First of all,
right.
All right. I used to be a SPO, a special police officer, basically where security guards with a gun, right? If a car is considered a deadly weapon, if you get into my squad car and you start driving away, all right, and remember that guy turned and made a turn, like he B-rolled around him.
Yes.
As soon as like there's a difference between you speeding away from me and speeding over. First of all, him fighting them is ridiculous. He should have got tased and shot at the same damn time. All right. But him getting into the car, right? Now I want him shot. Him getting into the car and then B-rolling around them, they didn't even think to pull their gun out and shoot at that car.
Not at all.
So mind-boggling to me. It is a 2-ton vehicle. You will die if he hits you with enough force. You did not draw your weapon. That's insane.
Yeah, but that's just it. The trigger for them, and obviously not all cops, you know, whatever. But the trigger for them is skin color. Like the minute they see how you're presented, whatever that is like, okay. And usually the spectrum is whiteness versus blackness. Like, where do you fall on the spectrum, right? And the minute they put you in one category or the other, they govern themselves according to that, you know, program. So for white people, it's serve and protect. And for black people, that's when you get all the shit that you see in the movies, all that glorified, oh, I'm gonna shoot first and ask questions later, and then there's an explosion at the end. That's what we get. You know what I mean? But it's real life, and it's not cool at all. You know, it doesn't look like, nothing about it is cool. And that's part of the problem too, is like public perception for years has been good guys versus bad guys. And even
cops and robbers mentality.
Yeah, and like even with Lego, like Lego pulled all their police Legos off the shelves and donated to because like we do have a culture in this, we have a gun culture in this country. We have a culture of vilifying black people and glorifying the cops. So of course we have police brutality. You know, it's a recipe for disaster.
And like you're saying, it's systemic. It's in our face constantly. It's in the media. There's I'm going to share something with you guys. So there's a former cop at my job, former police officer. And I don't know, a few years ago, I was just doing research on police. Like I didn't understand like why why certain things were happening and why the police were getting away with certain things and why like their code amongst each other is so
the blue line of silence.
Yeah, it's so strong and it's so tight, and
that blue wall.
And I've known so many police like throughout my life, and I know that just like who's the comedian, Chris Rock. Mm-hmm. He said I know being a cop is hard, and like I've spoken to cops. All you gotta do is just if you talk to a police officer and they can tell you like a horror story mm-hmm. that they've had to deal with, and it's not something you would ever want to deal with in your life. It's mm-hmm. a tough job, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm going to take it all the way back. So I went and did some like research on like police training. Mm-hmm. So there's a course that all police officers go through. Mm-hmm. And it's like, both of you probably know what I'm talking about. It's one of the courses where something pops up and then you've got to decide whether you're going to shoot it, like take action, right, or whether it's a civilian, so on and so forth.
Right.
So I spoke to the former police officer that I worked with my job, because I wanted to confirm whether what I had read was actually accurate or not. Mm-hmm. So I said, in this course, there's a pop-up where it's a white guy holding up somebody. And then there's another pop-up where it's just a black guy and he's wearing a hoodie. You can't really like make him out like too well what he's doing or whatever, but he's not doing anything. He's just a black guy in a hoodie, essentially. And in the research, they said that pop-up of the black person gets shot statistically more than the actual white pop-up who is like holding somebody at gunpoint.
Yeah.
And he said, yes, this is what he said. He said, yes, that's true. But, and I said, I don't need to hear anymore. Like the but.
Yeah, don't give me a but.
Yeah, I'm done. Like you said, that is true. That's right. All I needed to hear. So right. What that's telling me is because, there's Native American cops, mm-hmm. Indian cops, black mm-hmm. cops, white cops, Asian cops, right? That's all ethnic. Well, not all. Being a police officer goes across the vast amount of ethnicities, mm-hmm. ethnic groups, whatever. But for something that specific to happen, the majority of times that it does, that's going into a person's psyche mm-hmm. and what they've been seeing for years and years and years. And it's been forced into their brain to just automatically react mm-hmm. in that way to that cardboard character, that pop-up,
right?
To immediately know that, oh, I've got to be aggressive in this instance.
Right.
Well, think about it. Police at one point in this country were all white, right? So they have a way of training their white up. Well, at that time have training their white officers. A lot of those tactics haven't changed. And so when you start integrating and then you start bringing people of different races and ethnicities into your fold, guess what you start teaching them? You might, how they say, quote unquote, racism is over or whatever, blah, blah, blah. We all know that's bullshit, right? Mm-hmm. America is built on a certain set of ideals, right? It's supposed to be this grand experiment that's supposed to be so great, but it has a lot of racism still like buried into its core. So when you join a faction like the police, guess what? A lot of them old, dirty, racist ways are built into it. And guess what? They're not just going to teach it to the Joe White guy down the block. Everybody gets integrated into that system. So they make you feel like it's okay for me to beat this man like this because I'm a cop. That's why they call it the blue wall. It's we're brothers, we're together. It's like you're creating a whole race within yourself. That's what they try to say. They try to make up that fake me out movement of Blue Lives Matter.
Yeah,
they try to make that crap.
Yeah, it's pretty much it's a cult because there's no such thing as a blue life. I've never seen a blue person a day in my life. Mm-hmm. I see people.
You can have a blue job.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta have a job where you're wearing blue, but your skin color isn't blue. So people who subscribe to that whole blue wall crap, they don't understand that they're actually subscribing to literal racism. Like
Right.
it's inherent in your brain.
And see, I like to think better than that. You know what I mean? I'd like to think that we're better than that.
Me too.
Because
I would like to.
But actively try to be better than the next generation. Like the post that I made recently on Facebook, we need to be better than the generation that came before us. That's the only way it'll get better.
Mm-hmm.
We can't keep making the same mistakes as what came before us. And we can't keep teaching the same things that came before us because the world changes around us.
Mm-hmm.
At least it should.
Mm-hmm.
You know, change for the better. If you're not being progressive, you're being regressive.